Hey everybody, welcome to Cousin Jack Carves. We're at the end. We're ready to start detailing our little gnome. So today we're going to put in these pants, separate them from the boots, add some wrinkles. We're going to add that mustache and the beard, finish up that nose and the hat, the bottom of the coat. We'll put in the wrinkles around the belt. I mean, we're really going to have some fun adding details finally and finishing up our carving. Let's get started. So let's go ahead and get to some details. Before we do that, what I want you to do and what I did in the time between the last part 4 and this part 5, I went around the entire piece. I was looking at the depth, right? Look at the depth of the hair on one side versus the center, looking for equal depth and making sure that we've got some good depth on each piece. One of the things that happens, especially with beginner carvers, is they just don't get in there very deep with the knife. So start with your mittens, check the depth around all sides of your mittens, see if they're even with one another. If you need more depth, that means you take away some of the material from the heart. That's why you start with the mittens, because after you've done that, now you go down to the heart. You're looking at the depth all around to make sure you have equal depth. If you don't, then you remove material from the beard and from the coat that will bring you down to some good depth on your heart, and so on. So you start with your outermost layer, which in this case here would be the mittens, then the heart, and then so on. Go around the arms. Another thing that I did, I just went around and cleaned up some cuts, got rid of some fuzzies, and I also started out, I beveled one side of this heart on the top. I saved this side so I could show you how I did that. So this is pretty simple. It's just a matter of angling the blade a little bit to get a bevel. This will have a nice effect. It cleans up our edge and at the same time makes it more visually pleasing to have that bevel. And it's something that you can do very quickly. I also went in and I carved this shoe. I brought the pants back further, put in a little detail. I saved this side so I can show you how we'll do that. So let's go ahead and do that. We've already got a stop cut that we put in there quite a while ago. Let's go ahead and just make sure we reinforce that stop cut a little bit here. Get to that edge and rock the knife, just like that. And you can see how one side of the pants is further back than the other, right? The side that I worked on, you can tell I removed some material there. Same with the shoe. The boot is coming back further. So that's what we'll be working on, and also rounding these legs as we go. So we're going to start out with our stop cut on the bottom. We know that we have still quite a bit of material here to work with compared to this side. You can see the pants are here and the shoe is separated from the pants. So let's go ahead and bring our shoe up to the stop cut very gently there. You don't want to snap off your edge, but if you do, you can fix it. So we're very quickly making some progress here. This will give us that separation between the pant leg and the boot. Yeah, that went pretty quick, didn't it? So now I'm just going to, again, bevel that edge. See the angle on my blade there? Just bringing that along to bevel the edge of the pants. And I'm going to start removing some more material from the pant leg here. With this, just going to bring my blade up to the bottom of the coat. giving it a little bit of a scoop there as well. And by that, I mean I'm turning that blade, scooping that cut, put the blade in there, get the edge in, and scoop. That gives us a little bit of a contour to our shape. Coming all the way around. Again, just trying to get things rounded and shaped. Yeah. Okay, that's very quickly taking shape. I'm going to compare my two pant legs. I can see by looking at it that this one still needs to come back further. So I'll take another slice at it here. Now if I had one leg in front of the other, that'd be a little different story. That's not the case here. Okay, I'm liking where the pants are. Now I'm going to work on this other boot. So one of the first things I'll do is come in here on an angle and just go straight down with my blade, just like that. And I'm going to slice into there. There you go. Now I'm going to come straight down across the top, angle it this way, and straight back like this. So we're starting to get some shape to that top of the boot. Then I'm going to come to the side and bring it back like this, making it plain for the side of that boot. That'll show up there. On the front, I'm just going to bring my edge of my knife up a little bit here. Making some small chips. So I've got this one on this side is a little bit higher than the other, so I'm just going to go back, straight back on it again. Yeah, I like that. So then at the bottom of the pants, I'm just going to make a cut going down towards that boot. This is sort of an angled cut. Just trying to give the bottom of the pants a little bit of dimension there. Yeah. So let's think about some little wrinkles, some details that we can add to this particular dwarf, and we'll put in some wrinkles in the bottom of the pants. So I'm going to come in here on an angle, making a V cut, one slice this way, and come back at it from an angle like that. Now what I like to do is then kind of continue that same wrinkle in a little bit different direction. So I'll come here near the edge of that wrinkle with a different direction now. Again, making a slice on an angle this way, and then coming back at it like that. And that adds a little bit of interest there because it's not just a straight line. So there you go. We've got some wrinkles in there. I'll do the same thing on the other side. Put a little wrinkle. I'm going to go right in here close to the center and then come back at it just like that. And in the interest of time, folks, I'm not going to do a lot of cleanup here. I want you to see more about the approach. I'll clean it up later. Then I'm going to come over here. I'm not connecting this one. I'm going to come over here and just have fun. Have fun with your wrinkles. Somebody should. Anyway, This is just a series of V cuts. You can do this with a V tool. If you have a V tool, why not use it? You can certainly do that. If you want to make them with your knife, absolutely. It's just as much fun, maybe even more fun. So let's go ahead and put some more. Let's go on to the back. So I'm going to go in here, angling that cut, bringing it out like this. From the other direction now of my V. There we go. And then also, I'll change the direction slightly. Come this way. And then come up to that on an angle. There we go. And come over here on the other side. Put some wrinkles in the other pant leg. It's hard to go wrong with wrinkles in the bottom of the pants. You can go wrong with a shirt. The way that shirts hang and where the wrinkles should be, it's kind of particular. With pants, especially like if you imagine he's wearing some denim or something like that, it's much more forgiving. All right, so we've got this pant leg looking good. I'm going to come along the side of this one over here. Just put in another little wrinkle. And like I said, it's your carving. You do it the way you want to. You make it look the way you want it to look, okay? Just have fun. All right, so I'm pretty happy with where the pants are right now. Let's go ahead and start working on this guy's face. So what I've done here, I've measured 5/8 of an inch from where the top of the nose meets the brim of that hat, 5/8 down underneath the center of that nose. I made a mark. That's going to be where the mustache is going to happen on this little guy. Okay? And that mustache extends all the way out to about the center of the shoulder. So right around the center of my shoulder here, I'm just going to make a mark right up near the brim of the hat. And I'm going to go on the other side, look at right around the center of my shoulder again, make a little mark near the brim of the hat, and then draw myself a nice curved line down to that center mark under that nose. So we want this guy to have a happy face, so we have this upturned mustache, which gives him that sort of happy look. If you turn the mustache downward, it's going to change the expression, right? So we've got the makings of our shape here. Now let me show you the profile view, because I want you to see the depth and how this really forms what looks like where his mouth would be, right? Like a lip. You can see how the top of this mustache curves in here. It goes in pretty far. And then the bottom as well. So we've got a really good V cut here to form that separation and that shape. And you can also see how this mustache is curving all along. And then here with the bottom, where the beard is, it goes from this bottom lip area and kind of contours down towards the heart. So let's go ahead and start working on that. I should have mentioned earlier, I'm also using my 1.5 inch medium detail knife. This is the Helvey. I've got that wrap on there. If you don't know about this wrap, folks, go watch the video. I made a video all about this overgrip wrap. So for this mouth, I'm just going to get my blade here in the center, and I'm going to come at it from the top, angled a little bit. And I'm going to put some pressure on the back of my blade and rock it just like that. Then I'll come at it from the bottom. Again, I'm going to angle it. This is a V cut. You can see that go right in there. I'm going to get that separation that we need. I'll come back at it again from the top and from the bottom. So what I'm looking for is really that shape that we just looked at on the finished gnome. Okay. Just going to extend that a little bit more, like so. Yeah, okay. Now for the rest of that line, I'm just going to come in here and make a stop cut, bring it on up to the brim of the hat where we have our line. Now, we're going to have the beard tucked under the mustache. So with that, you always want to think about, well, what's on top of what? If the mustache is on top, that means we're going to make our cut up to the stop line from the beard side so that the beard is tucked under the mustache. So I'm going to bring my tip of the knife underneath where we made that stop cut and bring it all around, like so. Come back over here on the other side, same thing. Going to make that stop cut. And then also from the beard side, cut up to where my stop cut is. And that gives us that effect that the beard tucks underneath the mustache. Just going ahead and take off some of my pencil marks. Now I want to bevel that. Just like we did earlier, I'm going to angle the blade a little bit and bevel the edge of that mustache. Okay? Then I'll come over here on this side, do the same thing. Get a little bit of a bevel going. There we go. You know, that also helps us get rid of the pencil marks. Now, what you can do then to enhance the actual line between the two, you can just take the blade and run it along that line, just straight in, and that gives you some shadow. Just running that blade across that line that we made there. Now I'm looking at shape. I want to see how we're doing on shape. So I want that mustache, again, to be sort of curved here. So I'm going to work on bringing the mustache a little further in at the top. I'm going to bring my knife along the brim of the hat here. Like that. Come over to the other side. Take off a little material near the top. Yeah. And now get back in here with the edge of my knife here, just sort of angling the blade a bit above the bevel we made earlier. Just coming back at it like that. And then on the other side, again, above the bevel that we made, try to get that blade in there. It's not always easy. I'll have to start in this direction and cut up, and then bring it back this way. So yeah, all of this will be covered up when we have our whiskers in. But if we don't have the correct shape underneath those whiskers, it just won't look right. It won't look very good. Now on the bottom lip, remember we had some sort of a scoop going, and we do see that here already. That looks fairly good. We could make it more pronounced, I think, on this bottom lip. So we'll give that a shot. First thing I'm going to do, take a little bit of material right there. Yep. Okay, so that's just a simple scoop cut, folks. We're going to come underneath where we want that to be sticking out. Come down a little bit and then scoop towards the center of that heart. Now let's take a look at the shape overall. I think on this side I want to give that a little contour, the beard there. Part of the fun with a carving project like this is looking at the wood to see, well, where does this wood want to go sometimes? Now, we do have a pattern somewhat, right? We are following along. But there are certainly times where you can take your own twists and turns. I'm just taking off a little bit more material on the beard, adding a little bit of interest there. I've made myself a bit of a fuzzy. All right. I like it. Let's go ahead and start shaping that nose. We really haven't done much to it at all. We still have bandsaw marks on there, and we've got the corner still there. So I'm just going to start right around the center of that nose, come up a little bit. I want to be careful with this nose because it's supposed to touch the brim of the hat. I don't want to take a lot of material away on the top of this nose. Just want to bring it back a little bit. And add a little bit of separation, not much. And I'll come down on the bottom. Just kind of start rounding off the bottom. Go around the sides here. You know, this is kind of the part that most of us really anticipate. Can't wait to get to the details. But as we talked about so many times, it's it's so important to get the shapes right. Okay, I'm just continuing to round off the nose here, taking off the pencil marks, smoothing out the edges. This is a fairly simple nose, right? Kind of an egg-shaped nose. The most, I guess, important thing is to make it symmetrical on each side. Best that we can. And, of course, get rid of any sharp edges. We don't think that we want a gnome with sharp edges on his nose. So the nose comes together pretty quickly because it is simple. Now you might want to look at it from the side, see if you're happy with the profile, or if you want to alter that profile. Now, right now, for this little guy, I think he's got a little bit too much material here at the bottom. I want that profile to look a little bit different than that. So I'm going to take some more off from the bottom. That's a good recommendation too, folks. When you're working on a piece, look at it from just about every angle you can imagine. Very often you'll see some things that you didn't really notice before, and you can make corrections as you need to. So yeah, I like that better. Yep, like that better already. All right, cool. So we have not done a whole lot to the bottom of this coat yet. You can see that on the original, I decided, for whatever reason, to put in this sort of wrinkle that goes all the way around. It's almost like he's got a drawstring in there that you would see on a field jacket, where you can pull that drawstring through and make that sort of a wrinkle. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in because I put it in the original. You can see also that I beveled the edge on the bottom. So those are some things that we'll do. Now to put that in, again, if you have a V-tool, you can start with your V-tool. I'm just going to start with a V-cut. Put some pressure on the knife. Come at it from two directions. Now you can see, yeah, I did not start by drawing a line here. If you want to draw a line, you can certainly do that. I would think that in most cases, this would not be a straight line. That's one of the reasons I didn't draw one. Again, just making a series of V-cuts here. So what we will do when we get to the whiskers, I'm going to use a V-tool. Now, if you do not have a V-tool, do not fret. You can make whiskers with your knife, not a problem. I tell you what, I have carved probably more than 30 years, and it wasn't until, I don't know, a few years ago that I got a decent V-tool. So I did most of my carving with a knife. And that's usually the distinction that people make between carving and whittling. I know I think I've heard Gene Messer talk about, he considers himself to be a whittler because he does just about everything with only a knife. He's got some incredible knife skills there. I'm going to continue making that come all the way around. So many people will say if you do everything with the knife, then that's something you've whittled. And when you start getting into gouges and V-tools and skews or other types of tools, they consider that more wood carving. I don't know. I think whatever tools you have at your disposal, you might as well use them. All right, so we've put in that wrinkle. Now let's bevel the bottom of this coat. I'm going to come in here on an angle, just like this. This really helps us clean up our cuts along the bottom of that coat. It also helps our carving look a little more refined, more detailed by beveling that edge. And you know, it's pretty easy to do. Kind of enjoyable, right? I don't know if you folks have tried power carving. That would be using a Dremel or a Fordham or some other rotary tool. But for me, power carving, it's noisy, dusty. It doesn't give me the same sort of zen feeling that I get when I'm just using a knife. So after beveling, I'm just going to come in here and go down straight with my blade right under the bevel, just like that. Just cleaning up the cuts a little bit more. Now, in the interest of time, I'm not going to go all the way around and do that right now. Just showing you so that you can see it and that you can do that as well. It's just part of cleaning up your cuts before you say, yep, I'm done. And when you think you're done, here's what I want you to do. Put your carving on your coffee table or your end table, wherever you are, where you sit and you watch TV. And then during a commercial, take a look at it. Just take a look at your carving. I guarantee you, within a few days, you'll probably see things that you didn't see before, and you'll pick it up and you'll want to make changes. And that's okay. That's fine. That's what I do frequently. I find things that I thought, oh, I thought that looked good. So what we just did with the coat, we're going to do with this hat. Let's take a look at our original. There you go. I put in that same sort of wrinkle all the way around here and beveled the bottom of the brim, okay? Again, it's fairly simple. I'm going to start over here on this side and just make a slice angled up and come back down. So same thing applies here. If you have a V tool, you can absolutely start out with your V tool, just working your way all the way around the brim. You can see I did not draw a line here, folks, for the same basic reason. It's because it doesn't really have to be straight. You know, sometimes it looks more realistic and adds more interest. It's not just a straight line. Now, if we were carving a robot or something like that that has a lot of straight edges and angles, well, that'd be a different story. But this little gnome, you know, he lives outside. He gets his hat wrinkled up sometimes. He may even use it for a pillow at night, for all we know, right? Just rocking that blade to make it sink into the wood, and one more slice here. Okay, now we're going to work on beveling the bottom edge of his hat. For that, I'm going to bring my blade way down to the edge here. I'm going to slice up towards that mark we just made. See that? This is going to help strengthen the edge for us, believe it or not, too. Help us not get little edges that are broken out and look all crumbly. Just make your way around. This also gives an effect that the brim now is sort of angled downward. Here on the back, I've got a lot of material. And I'm just going to angle that in a little bit more. So for this cut, you'll see, if you notice, and this is something you can notice when you're watching a carving video, I'm not just pushing the knife up, I'm slicing at the same time. See that? Now you can see how that angle has changed, right? It looks like that brim is now coming down. So now I'm going to come along the bottom of that brim and bevel the other direction just slightly. And this doesn't take much. But again, that will help clean up our cuts, and it will also enhance the look. Now on the back where I have more material, I've got some unfinished cuts here. I'm just going to come straight back from the tip of my blade. I'm just going to slice in, and when I say slice, I'm pushing the blade forward while I'm pushing down, okay? So let's try that again. Ready? Just like that. And already that looks better. Here's another spot over here. That's how we clean up our cuts, folks, just like that. So let's continue with our beveled bottom edge. Bring that around. This also helps take off some of the pencil marks that are sort of lingering there. And you may have noticed that I have some dirty spots on this hat. And some of that may be from my glove. I was doing some yard work and I wore my carving gloves, so yeah, I think I've got some dirt on this guy. And you can see it on some of the facets right here. So if that happens with your carving, when you're all done, just take some dish soap, some mild dish soap, a little warm water. You can get your carving nice and clean before you paint, okay? Not a big deal. Okay, so I think we're in pretty good shape now with the hat. I think what I would like to do is enhance this floppy part just a little bit more. To do that, I'm going to come to the very tip, that spot right there. I'm going to make a triangle. I'm going to come in with my blade this way and come in this way and then slice up to it. There we go. Just to give it more oomph, right? Yeah. And take off a little more material around that. And now I've got this straight edge happening on this floppy edge or floppy side of the hat. I'm just going to come back in and just bevel that edge. Make it look rounded, as it should. And a little bit on the front too. Yeah. You know, I think it's time to go ahead and add a little contour here to the beard. What you can do is make a few scoop cuts with your blade. Now you need a blade that doesn't have a really broad or wide sort of height to it. You can see how this comes to a point that enables it to scoop like so. Now, all I'm doing with this is turning that tip of the blade. Just want to add some contour to this beard so it's not just flat. On this side, now we'll come in here and make a bunch of whiskers, like I said, but the shape underneath those whiskers should add to and enhance what that looks like. I'm going to make one more scoop cut right over here. Now this is the kind of thing that a lot of people will do with a gouge before they get in there with the V-tool to add their whiskers. They'll take a gouge and just start making shapes. So already we've got some shape going on here that we didn't have before, and I really like that. Now we could try and do that with the mustache, but I'll tell you, I don't really think it's going to need it, not like that beard did, because we had a lot of flat surface going on before we did that. I like the way that looks. So why don't we go ahead and put in a few more details. So on these arms we have this spot where the elbow is bending. I'm just going to come in here and make a couple of little wrinkles to show where that sleeve would have a wrinkle. That's a little V-cut right there. Come above the elbow. Make another one. And we'll go over here on the other side, do the same thing. We'll come below the elbow, we'll give it a little angle this way. Right? And come up above that elbow. Okay, now I think what we'll do is work on our back side, because you can see here that I added quite a few of these wrinkles that go underneath the belt and then are extended on the top. This one just stops, doesn't go extended. This one extends, adds to that look. Now, I did make those wrinkles with a V-tool. I'm going to show you, you can do it with your knife. I'm just going to come over here. I'm going to make a curved sort of a cut. And again, this is going to be a V-cut. All right. So since I have it curving this way underneath, I'm going to come up to the top and I'm going to continue that curve this way. All right? So I'll just start here, angle the blade just a little bit, come back at it from the other direction. Now you have to be careful that you don't put a slice in your belt while you're doing this. This is going to be a little bit tricky. Details usually are. So I think you have the idea, right? And you would do the same thing with the other wrinkles. This is my V-tool that I'm going to be using to show you, for example, how I made these wrinkles. So this is a dockyard tool. I think it's a probably 3mm V-tool. So it's called a micro tool. It has a Helvey handle on it, and was sharpened by the folks at Helvey, Rich Smithson. I'm just going to come in here with my V-tool. And you can see how quickly this goes when you have a V-tool. So sometimes a beginner will say, well, what kind of V-tool do I need? I would recommend that you have a small, a medium, and a large V-tool. So this micro V-tool right here would be considered small. And again, I think it's about a 3mm. That's the width across the bottom. You could probably get a good 1/4" V-tool. That would be very versatile. You could do a lot with that, sort of a medium size. And then a large V-tool for larger projects, or even a soft V, what's called a soft V. So very quickly, we were able to put in those wrinkles. Now, also with the V-tool, you could make, wrinkles in pants. That's really easy to do. with a V tool. Now we're going to work on the hair. So with the hair, I'm just going to take my V tool, bring it up, like so. If you're doing this with a knife, it's not a problem. You can absolutely do it with a knife. And you want to be somewhat random with your V-tool cuts. And yeah, if they don't pop off at the top, folks, you just come back with a knife and trim them a little bit. It's pretty simple. So making these lines for the hair can be a little tedious, but you know what? It can also be pretty enjoyable. So what I did on this original, I made this crosshatch at the bottom to give it this look like a little bit of a curl to his hair. So to do that, I came at it from one angle, like so. And then came back at it from the other direction. Just like that. All right, so I'm going to keep on working my way around here on this hair, and I'm going to be quiet so that Sunny can speed this up. So lickety split. There we go. He's got some hair. Let's work on this mustache. So I want to show you something. The effect that I wanted was a smile. So you can see that in addition to turning up the mustache, I tried to get these whiskers sort of curving outward like that, right? To just support that idea that he's got this smile. So with the V tool, just coming in here, making a series of cuts. So you want to make sure you have a good sharp tool, right, when you're doing this. And another thing you can do is sort of curve your cut, like so. Now I also like to make sure that I come down here to the edge and cut in. I want to break up that edge, that solid sort of looking edge. That's going to add some character as well and be more realistic. Yeah, that's looking good. And you can see that when I did that, I was making an angle. So you can see how it gives that angled sort of effect that the whiskers are, again, coming up like that. Now under the nose, this is more of a straight down sort of an approach. And then starting that curve again, right? That's the sound of a sharp V tool, folks. Thank you, Rich Smithson. Add a few more details here. So yeah, sort of like I mentioned earlier, some people think this is a very tedious part. I really enjoy this part. I don't know why. I think it's fun. Just going to break up that edge again and make angled cuts like this. All right, now for the beard. And you can see with the beard, we've got this sort of flowing straight down here, angling in, the whiskers coming this way, and then angling in from this way. So let's have some more fun. And I think what's kind of neat to do is, like I said earlier, sort of start a cut and curve it. Some people will make whiskers like this with a very small U-gouge. You can certainly give that a shot too. It's pretty effective. And again, wherever you have some little fuzzies that don't pop off, you can come back in with your knife and just very gently, as Dwayne Gosnell would say, tickle them a little bit. Find out where they're hanging on. So that side went quickly. So what I would do after that, I would just look at the piece and see if I have any flat sort of spots that I missed where, for example, right here, there's sort of this broad, flat area, and then right here, just go back in there and kind of break up that flat spot that shows up. I would do the same thing on the front. I see a spot right here. Right. Now up here at the top of the beard, I'm going to come in. Remember how we went in and cut up that edge? We went in from the top. Right now we're going to come in from the bottom. Just make some small, interesting shapes there. And we'll do that on both sides. I didn't touch this part. That's kind of where that bottom lip would be. I kind of like the way that looks right there. I might just break up the big chunk right here a little bit. Yeah. All right, let's take one more look at our original. Make sure that we've kind of covered everything for you. And I think we did. So what I'll do quickly, folks, is just talk you through how I finished my carving to get this look, okay? The very first thing I did was to dip the wood, this finished carving, into some Minwax 209 natural wood stain, or wood finish. Right, that penetrates the wood, gives it a slight bit of color. After that, I waited maybe about 6 hours, and then I started painting. So with the painting, I used very thin down colors to put on these coats of wash to get to the colors that I wanted. After I did that, I put on some Minwax water-based polycrylic to seal the paint, right? Well, let me just say, I let that paint cure for a day or two. And then I put on the polycrylic. I put on one coat of that polycrylic, matte finish, again, water-based, let that cure, add a second coat. I do that with a brush. I make sure I get into all the different crevices and get a good coating on there before I put on the antiquing. So the antiquing in this case is a recipe that's called turd polish. I learned it from Chris Hammock, and the recipe is basically a mixture of Minwax aged oak gel stain, and that's watered down with some mineral spirits. And after watering it down, I apply that, usually just rub it on with a rag and then wipe off the excess to get the look that we have right here. I did already promise to make a video showing that process, and I will do it. It just takes days in between to let these different steps cure. So I want you to know how I finished this guy. And you probably have your own way of doing that, your own finish that you enjoy, that you like. I really want to thank you for joining me, for coming along on the ride, and I would love to see a picture of your carving if you want to post one. Much appreciated. Thanks a lot, folks. We'll see you next time.